Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, and viewers from around the world. It is time for the fifth and final race of the week. My name is Strifium, and joining me from the other side of the world in Australia, Mikau, it is Imola. How are you feeling?
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever in the world you may be joining us this fine evening. I'm doing well, Striff. I hope you're in for some very intense racing action around this very historic track. We've already seen quite a lot of drama throughout the week, and what better way to end it off than with the Americas Tier 1 division?
Tier 1 never disappoints in this Americas, of course, and it is the fourth round of the season. We've already seen three fantastic rounds through Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Australia. Of course, your neck of the woods last week. But today, Imola, a circuit that we have never seen this division on before, whether it be in any of our seasons, because it is new, this game release. So we didn't run it in season 5. And of course, we have the United States coming next week. Following that, Monaco. Then we have Portugal, Azerbaijan, Canada, Britain, Austria, France, as well as Belgium, the Netherlands, China, Zuka, of course, Japan. We have Abu Dhabi, and then Brazil to wrap things up in our 18 round season here for season 6. And a very, very serious calendar ahead. It can be, as a driver, very grueling to look at times, considering some of the rounds ahead, especially Monaco there for the round 6. But enough about what's coming ahead for the rounds. Let's talk about what's happening here in the now as far as the standings. Mikau, Rhapsody has taken lead of this standings. 41 points, 4 points just ahead of the reigning champion and the defending champion, Becky B. And just behind him, that pesky Ferrari, Graz, who is, he's been extremely consistent at bugging these guys at the front of the grid in these past few rounds. So it's also great to see him out there. And Maxim B, 4th position, 30 points. Very tight championship fight we have ourselves right now. And you have Mercedes top of the constructors as well.
Yeah, it's getting really tight at the top. Of course, unfortunately, Becky B was unable to be in attendance at arguably one of his better tracks in Albert Park. But we'll see if he's able to make amends here this evening. Going for that three-peat, and obviously just trying to assert his dominance in this America's Tier 1 division.
Becky B, of course, 2-time champion of this division. He was champion in seasons 4 and 5, and season 4 was the inaugural season for the division. So big shout out to him. And now he'll, as you mentioned, look to go and try to find that three-peat and assert his dominance in this division further. Rhapsody will be looking to undo that, as he has looked quite competitive throughout the season thus far after the first 3 rounds. I do believe 2 pole positions.
Yeah, Rhapsody is a driver who in the past has had a fairly shaky record. He's still trying to recover from what was a disappointing opening round in Bahrain a couple of weeks ago. But over the seasons, over the races, he's been hit or miss, and I'm glad to see he's found at least some kind of consistent form in rounds 2 and 3. And he certainly needs that if he wants to challenge Becky B for that driver's crown. But you can't forget about the second drivers in both of those teams. Maxime B for Mercedes and Johnny Disco, the Tier 2 graduate for Williams. Both have been incredibly impressive so far this season, being well up there in the points scoring positions. However, Maxime had a difficult race last week, and he'll be hoping that the tides have turned and he's able to really cement himself in that top 5.
Absolutely. Johnny Disco, if I'm not mistaken, took the pole position in Saudi Arabia for round 2. and it was Rhapsody for rounds 1 and 3.
Yes, you would be correct on that. It's a very fast lap around Imola, so I don't expect the gaps between these drivers to be large at all. I've seen them be extremely close all throughout the week, and I dare say this won't be any different. And we'll just hope, for the drivers' sake, that the heavens don't open up like they did 24 hours ago, Striff.
Yeah, 24 hours ago, it was not a pleasant sight. Rain through both the qualifying session and the race for the Americas Tier 2 division. Another thing to note, I had the pleasure of commentating the Tier 3 division for the European side of things, if you will, this week. Not something I do anymore, as I've not got the availability. But, my oh my, what a race it was. And in any case, that race, it had rain, and it was just extremely, extremely interesting to see how the gap in that grid was only 7/10 from first down to 17th position. That blew me away, and I haven't had a chance to really catch a race, so no one had forewarned me how tight things truly were.
Well, it being a new track and everyone doing a lot of laps on it recently, at least since it was brought into the game a few months ago now, uh, people have been trying to just get up to speed as quickly as possible, because you really need the mileage and the laps down and the experience to know how the car is going to behave under certain conditions. And there are some very, very tricky sections of corners on this track. I mean, of course, the famous Aqua Minerale in the middle sector, the first sequence of corners, the Tamburello chicane, as well as the Villeneuve chicane, catching out a couple of drivers last night as well. So there aren't easy corners around here. There are some deceptively simple ones, particularly those final two turns 17 and 18, the 90-degree left-handers. But even those two can cause quite a few issues. I remember distinctly that Paula Brady in her Alpine spun at the exit of turn 18, and that was her race done and dusted.
Been a very tricky week here around Imola. Absolutely. We saw in the Tier 3 race, and this was something I had not expected to see. We had both Mercedes racers lined up 1 and 2, and unfortunately, before we had even rounded for the third or fourth lap, they had both been retired through the race. And I do not believe it was through any kind of collision. I think they were isolated incidents, so not entirely sure what to make of that. Weather can definitely play with things. That was a wet campaign.
Well, the full 20 drivers are now finally in the lobby. Apologies for the delays, ladies and gentlemen. We were having some Steam connection issues with some of the drivers.
Appears I have lost connection on my end. There's Steam. But oh, back in there.
It's begun already, Striff. You'll love to see it.
The luck has struck.
Maybe it's foreshadowing for the 32 laps that are going to follow around this iconic track. I mean, I'm so glad that. I mean, I said this last night when I was in here with Gorziak. I'm so glad that Imola's back on the calendar. It's a racer's track. You know, it's a driver's circuit. I mean, everyone knows it. I mean, it's just so cemented in the history of Formula One, and to have it back on to have it absent for so long was really unfortunate. And you know, with the rule only having one track, one Grand Prix, I should say, in a nation, really brought Monza to the forefront. Because which one do you pick? Do you pick Monza? Do you pick Imola? Like, there's really nothing that separates those two in terms of just the historic value that they provide to the sport. But glad to see both of them back.
Absolutely. I do believe I have now had an opportunity to get myself into the session, and it would appear that the Steam issues are affecting drivers in waves.
Yeah, not entirely sure what's been going on there. But what I can say for certain is that the championship leader is the first out there on track.
That is something that you absolutely love to see.
His lid also very nicely matches that Williams. The blue, and it's got a bit of yellow highlights as well. We're rating lids, Striff. How do we feel about Becky's one?
I wish I could get a better look, honestly. I mean, I absolutely, there's a good look. I like it for sure, but I absolutely love it when a racer really commits to the team they're racing for in a league. They go and they pick out a helmet, they colorize it, and they kind of make it their own.
Well, Becky B into the Tamburello chicane, turns 2, 3, and 4. That car looks so hooked up through that section, and you'd expect nothing less. And now into the Villeneuve chicane. Before we start the middle sector of the lap, he's missed the apex slightly on the second part. Dips a tire on the gravel, but it is all good by the steward standards. Out of this very slow left-hand hairpin, you run up the hill towards this fast left, where you just hope that the tires really stick to the road. And then we head into turns 10 through the 13, the dreaded Aqua Minerale section. Case of a lot of spins throughout the week, but Becky B navigates it well into the final sector lap. That's very tight chicane, and then you're early on the power, and you just have 2 real corners left to go through the sweep of 16. Now the left-hander of 17 really attacking the curves as much as he can, but he's attacked it a bit too much on the exit, and that is going to be an invalid lap time. He will finish the lap off, though, just to have a solid delta time, that we have an idea of the pace of 14.3 to start things off. It's not a bad banker, as Dave Haas goes with 15.6, Rhapsody 14.4. So the 2 title contenders really close on pace. Also have a couple of new drivers making their MRL debuts as well, Striff. Dago in that Alfa Romeo has been very impressive in the practice sessions and the practice races, not just this week but last week as well in Albert Park, so he's definitely one to watch out for.
You love to see it, so we'll wish him the best of luck in the Alfa Romeo. And of course, we now have 4 drivers with times. 2 drivers sitting on softs, 2 drivers on mediums, 3 on the mediums as Bo Mateo comes across in the Aston Martin. 15.365. No drivers really shoving themselves into that 14 range just yet, other than the provisional pole sitter Rhapsody. Teammate presently on a flyer, Maxim B, will be looking to put his first time on the board as Gabix G flies across the line along with Victor Diaz and Graz. And Graz, his time there, indicating that he may have had an issue on his run.
Well, there's a certain Alpine driver that I've just noticed who is very keen on keeping his 100% win record this season. We have a Cody Lawrence that strikes fear into the hearts of all Tier 1 drivers. It doesn't matter which continent you're in after a very, very nice performance a few hours ago, as Sidewinder has lost it at Aqua Minerale, and he has lost a front wing to boot as well.
You see, that is something that you don't want to see in qualifying. And, well, it's not something you...
Well, Sidewinder losing a wing or Cody Lawrence?
Well, both. I mean, from our perspective, I think it's fine to see Cody. You don't want to be seeing wings flying off of a car. But of course, Cody Lawrence, much a rival to every driver, and currently on a flyer in that Alpine, looking to really hook things up as he flies through Sector 1.
Keep it nice and tidy. Not using any ERS because I'm sure he wants to complete the first challenge yet again. So I wouldn't be totally surprised if he just aborts his lap at the end of things, but just trying to find his rhythm that he had a few hours ago. Graz, while all that was happening, for Ferrari P2, they won 14.6. Ferrari second in the constructors' tables at the moment here, but Mercedes leading the way very comfortably indeed. There we go. There's the invalidation we were waiting for.
Rushing the inside of the chicane.
Reserve Klinsmann in the McLaren out there on an outlap, about to go through the Aqua Minerale section the first time this session.
Such a tricky bit of circuit, that Aqua Minerale.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, regardless if the skies have opened up or not, it's really hard to put the power down because you have to accelerate on the AstroTurf in between where the curb is, and that can really unsettle the car quite easily. Just going through the final reserve on this grid is Meaty, who has coincidentally, Striff has just started his first flying lap of the session in that Red Bull.
Jump on with Meaty as Klinsmann has begun behind him. And well, Meaty has had a big snap, and that will be a big issue for him. And he pulls off, so we'll move back on with Klinsmann as he will fly by the Red Bull.
Yeah, that Tamburello chicane, you really have to be careful with it because if you take that turn 3 curb just a bit too much on that right-hand side, it'll easily either shoot you up into the air, and obviously then you're just going to go off into the grass, or you can hit those yellow sausage curbs and damage the underbody of your car, and that is, at least in the race, it's basically race over, done and dusted, I should say, because you really lose a lot of rear grip and stability, which you need around here, especially at that Aqua Minerale section. So don't want to be doing that basically at all if it can be avoided.
Klinsmann coming out of the final turn now to push himself into a time on this tower, and it is going to be good for 8th provisionally, 15.640. As Dago, the Alfa Romeo, on debut, giving the Mercedes of Rhapsody something to think about, and Rhapsody will have to think about it well on a flyer.
It's an impressive time, especially at this stage in the session with just under 9 minutes left. Could we be seeing any of these drivers into the 113s? And if I'm not mistaken, pole in Tier 1 was a 13.6 from those very, very quick drivers. I think we get close. I think we see a 14.0 personally.
We'll have to see what Rhapsody is able to put forth. Can the Mercedes beat out the Alfa Romeo? Narrowly avoiding exceeding the limit there on exit. He pushes things tight to the inside, and it is good enough for provisional pole once again. Mikau, it's a 14.115.
Yep, well there we go. His teammate Maxime B, 14.5. Puts himself up firmly on that second row. Now it's just waiting on Becky. He's just started his next attempt at a flying lap. He needs to be able to put this time on the board because you cannot leave it to a one-shot qualifying at a track like Imola. There are just so many places where you can just run slightly wide and it can just all be undone. And starting in the order, it is very difficult to make overtakes in the train, even more so than at other tracks, just because it's so narrow and there isn't really any other opportunity aside from that first braking zone. So these drivers are going to really need to shred their stuff here in qualifying. This is half the battle, Striff.
Becky B really on the limit here, coming through into the final chicane. One thing we saw was through Aqua Minerale, he essentially drifted this Williams, narrowly avoiding a far worse fate. And we'll have to see how things have been impacted on this time, because I have to say Becky B has been really avoiding a lot, and it's 14.248. Not good enough for pole, but close.
He just needs to be up there with them, up there with his teammate, up there with his championship rival. He just needs to be right up there. As Gabby has unfortunately lost it at the exit of the Tamburello chicane. As the McLaren session done and dusted, 16th is the best he could hope for.
That is unfortunate to see. It's very sad when you see an early retirement in the qualifying session.
It's just a testament to how much these drivers are pushing to try and get every single hundredth, even millisecond, out of these cars, and they'll need it to get the highest grid position possible. Just watching Meaty as he is on his next attempt. Coming out of Aqua Minerale into the Variante Alta. Keeping it nice and tidy. You can really attack the Alta chicane, actually, more than you think. Gives me Hanoi vibes from all of those drivers who are familiar. With that chicane, it turns, I think it's 6 and 7 on that track. Meaty across the line goes third. Holy moly. 1:14.194 from the Red Bull Reserve.
Very solid run there coming out of Meaty.
It's looking pretty close up the top.
Dave Haas coming through in what is the Haas.
It's like it was meant to be, Striff.
Close. Coming to the pit lane.
Well, it is the calm before the storm. We have no drivers presently out on track on flying laps. Just over 4 minutes remaining in this session. I dare say that the best is yet to come.
Cody Lawrence in the Alpine, presently chaining practice runs, if you will, of some capacity, as we have seen him invalidate lap after lap on deliberate intent. And well, we'll just have to see what he is able to bring us through the racing campaign. It is 32 laps around this circuit.
We have a very red car that is going very fast, going into Tosa now, Striff. The only driver, made that one of the only two drivers now, going quickly around this track. Sales approaching Aqua Minerale, turns 11 through 13. I've got my map up this time, so I won't mess up those corner numbers anymore. Alta chicane, 1.2 seconds up on his time. That would currently put him right in the mix at the lower points end, but there are still two very important corners to go. Rivazza, 17, now 18. Just trying to get on the power as early as you possibly can. Keep it tight to the right-hand side. What is the Ferrari going to do at their home track? It is third place. 1:14.185. That's our top four, all in the 1:14.1s.
Extremely tight at that top end of the spear here, at the tip of the spear here. Sidewinder into the pit lane.
Not happy.
Next up
Not happy at all.
will be Rhapsody on the move. The provisional pole sitter looking to increase that gap.
Well, he's going to need to if he wants to even remain on those front 2 rows at this rate. With the track evolution as it is, and with how closely matched all these drivers are on raw pace, he's going to need to pull something like a champion's lap if he wants to maintain that pole position for the race. He's backed out of it, not happy on this attempt, but he has time to go again, and tire wear isn't a huge issue around the circuit. So, well and truly, just going to charge the battery up just a little bit more.
Invalidated by that Haas there. I don't know if you felt that Haas was out of place or not to cost him, but it appeared he backed out once he saw the Haas.
Oh, he's messed up the exit out of Rivazza. It's going to be quite a scruffy lap. Johnny Disco on the move as well into Aqua Minerali's Struff. Yellow flags ahead as well. Not entirely sure why, but the Williams looks a lot more comfortable through that section of the track. Up a 10th. Oh, he's lost it out of the Alta chicane a little bit, but he's still able to get on the power early. Could this be a 1:13? That would definitely put himself right up there. Maxime B, 14-1 as well. He joins the 14-1 club. But Johnny Disco, he wants to leave that club and start his own one. It's going to be the... Well, nope, he can't call it just yet. A 1:14.106. And that puts him on provisional pole by just under 100th of a second. Literally less than a blink of an eye. Separate our top 5.
Meaty with a big issue at the moment in the Red Bull, as he was looking the wrong way. Sales with a retirement in the pit lane. He is finished. Curious to see if Rhapsody will be able to improve. The answer, friends and family, is no. He is on his way into the pit lane after what looked like an invalidated run there on the final shot. Who?
Oh, Becky B.
Ooh, it just jumped to that.
Yeah, Gabox just sitting at the exit of Tosa. Not the best spot if you're the Williams driver, and he needs every improvement he can get. Right now, he's on course to match the top 5. And he might have lost a lot of time through that middle sector because of that. Oh, this is not looking good. I don't think he's going to be able to improve unless he really nails Rivazza. Oh, he's right on the edge. He's basically nailed it as much as he can. But is it enough to claw back the time? No, it is not. He will stay in 7th place. And that was costly. That was really costly. It was a purple final sector as well. He really tried. He had the speed to take that pole position, but unfortunately just traffic getting in his way. And that's going to be qualifying done and dusted as Carmelescent in the Aston Martin comes across the line 18th.
A very interesting session. An extremely rapid grid coming ahead of us here into this Grand Prix. Of course, Imola, 32 laps. The current gap between the front row is 8 milliseconds. And if you look down to 5th, it is, well, to 6th actually, we can call it a dead 10th. It is 0.1. Very, very tight all the way. 10th?
If you're not within 2/10 of pole position, you're outside the top 10. I think that's the most impressive part about this qualifying. If you're not within 2/10 of pole, you are starting in the back 10. More or less. Back 11.
For the second time this season, Johnny Disco in the Williams will take a pole position, this time around Imola. Of course, a 14.106. We have Rhapsody, the Brazilian, lining up in the front row next to him in the Mercedes. It's not his first front row appearance either. Maxime B, the Canadian, in the partnering Mercedes will round out our top 3 with the Finnish driver of Sales in 4th and Meaty, Israeli, in 5th. Go down through the rest of this grid, of course, on the formation lap.
Yeah, we have Captain Jack Sparrow at the back of things as well, and he would be right up there with those guys. So a lot of work to do, but there's a lot of time to really make those moves, either with the strategy, either with just forcing other drivers into mistakes. I mean, with how tight the top echelon is, if anyone's done a race against AI here, you know that the Tamburello chicane can very easily end your race on that first lap. And it's just utter chaos from the comms box just with the broadcast cam. It's absolute chaos looking into the first braking zone.
Very, very clear sky here. Drivers loading in. And we will get into a position where everybody can select their setups and strategies. Gauzy in the chat calling us for a lobby restart.
Yeah, I mean the connection issues were just really unfortunate. You hate to see it go like this, but sometimes these things happen. Yeah, it's well and truly broken, Striff. So I guess while we have this downtime, ladies and gentlemen in the chat, who was able to stay up to date with the first track day for the F1 2022 season? New cars looking slick as ever.
Absolutely. Extremely excited to see the new cars, the new regulations this season. I have a favorite team, and I'm just going to say that I was very impressed with their first day performance, so I'm going to leave it at that.
I mean, there's no need to hide it, Striffy. Everyone knows you're a simp for Ferrari. Everyone who's like heard of you knows. It's like the
Nah.
first thing. Oh, he's that Ferrari guy, the Ferrari Canadian guy. That's who you are. And of course, some strong performances so far throughout this track day. Quite interesting to really see the different run plans. You know, you can tell that the teams are doing very different things through this first day. And I believe Lando was the only driver to touch the C4 compound, or at least set his fastest lap on that compound. So maybe just trying to put a bit of a shock factor into the other teams, perhaps. But I don't think we'll really fully see their hand until qualifying in just under a month's time, Striff.
It's always absolute, I feel, last minute until that qualifying. Until we go to Bahrain and we get into that qualifying session, we aren't going to really see who's on top.
It's a grueling 23 races ahead of those drivers as well. So we'll have to see if the reliability can hold up. Of course, it is the same power units from the last season, and there weren't too many engine-related issues across the entire field, which for the sport and for just the engineering and the brilliant minds behind all of the teams is really impressive, honestly. Gone are the days where you'd have teams bring like 3-4 engines for a single weekend, and they would just burn through them. Can't do that anymore. Whereas you'll be starting last every race. And be out of the sport because of the budget cap too. So it's really about sustainability and cost efficiency nowadays in Formula One. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Depends on who you ask. So I'm going to ask everyone in the chat, what do you guys think about the cost cap, about just the reliability side of F1, having only 3 power units allowed for the whole season? What do you guys think?
I think whatever brings the teams closer in competition. I think that's what's best. Better racing, that's of course what everybody wants to see. Or at least I know it's what I want to see.
I feel there's a fine line between aiding the slower teams and just having like a handicap. You know, like if you want to drive competition, everyone, you know, in a perfect world, everyone would have the same amount of resources and, you know, the same amount of development time. Captain Mark, I think engine penalties need to be ramping. It's a fair comment.
Apologies for the delay. If you're just joining us, we are undergoing a lobby restart with the reset of the grid. Should be ready to go onto our formation lap in just a few moments' time.
Yep, and it will still be the same grid order from qualifying. So all the drivers' hard work hasn't been undone. But I'm sure some of the drivers would want to have a second crack at it.
Of course, to anyone listening along, a reminder to load your setup. Absolutely critical.
Yeah, that's one way to quickly derail your entire event, your entire race. As in each successive new engine costs more grid slots. That is actually a good. That would actually really just push the reliability factor a lot more. That would make it just of utmost importance, because if one part fails, you could be easily starting well and deep in the midfield. But that might not be so bad if these cars are able to follow as closely and overtake as easily as everyone is making them out to be, because we are yet to see that. So maybe that might not be the worst thing in the world nowadays. But I think it's time to go back into the virtual space, Striff. Clear skies
Absolutely.
here in Imola, and a very, very angry bunch of drivers who are just raring to go.
Well,
Can't wait.
we have an extremely fast grid before us here. About to take 32 laps around the circuit, and we saw the separation in the top 10. You mentioned it. If you aren't within 2/10 of pole, you're outside of the top 10. This is gonna be what's a good word? This is gonna be an action-packed start. Okay, high octane, adrenaline. It's really gonna be interesting to see how these drivers cope with the very, very rapid circuit that is Imola.
We have some interesting selections of tyres in the back 10 as well. Vischer opting for the hards to start this race. Interesting call from AlphaTauri, but maybe they know something that we don't. Gabby Zoom on the softs, everyone else in the back 10 on mediums. And of course, the top 10 all on that soft compound, but there'll be fresh softs because of the lobby restart. So a little bit more life than perhaps they are used to from their race practices.
Johnny Disco, pole position again. Second pole position for the Williams driver this season. The first coming in Saudi Arabia around Jeddah. We have Rhapsody in second position, starting in the Mercedes with Maxim B, his teammate behind him. It's Sales, the Ferrari racer, at fourth. We have Meaty in fifth. Phoenix Mateo in sixth for Aston Martin. Becky B, the defending two-time champion of the division, for Williams, in seventh position. Dago in eighth. Of course, he is in the Alfa Romeo, making his debut. Gabix G in ninth. It's Graz in 10th. Visha in 11th, as mentioned. Starting on the hards, Sidewinder 303, the Red Bull racer, in 12th. Will be the first racer to begin the tower. Medium runners, Victor Diaz 13th in the Alpine. It's Klinsmann in the McLaren behind him. Dave Haas and Jamie Lawrence 15, 16 respectively for the Haas team on the mediums. And we have Gabizem in the other McLaren on the soft 17th. Following him, it is Carmelesson on the mediums with Guac in 19th, and Cody Lawrence, the Alpine reserve, rounding out this grid. Macau, and he again will be on the mediums.
He'll also be looking to keep his 100% win rate alive. But at Imola, can be quite challenging to do, but he's done it before. Let's see if he can do it again. As he takes his grid slot at the back of this order, we just wait for the light sequence to begin, and we will be racing here in Imola for the fourth round of season number 6. The 5 lights are on. And the lights are out, and it's go, go, go for all the drivers. It looks like the Mercedes of Maxime B getting a great start. I'm already putting Johnny Disco on a little bit of pressure, but Johnny playing it defensive, taking that inside line into the Tamburello chicane, and it's 2x2 going all the way down this grid. A couple of late movers. There's a bit of fun. Oh, there's a massive accident at the Tamburello chicane. Who's been involved in that? It looks like Rhapsody's gone around. Sales has gone around. Becky B has been caught up in that as well. Damage for the 2 championship contenders, Striff.
That is not what you want to see at the beginning of a race. Gabizem now, he has been caught up in something as well. It's 3 wide. Graz Klinsmann now holding on to 7 and 8. Right behind, it's the Lawrences fighting it out. Cody versus Jamie, not related, but right now, Cody pushing himself from 20th to 11th on the opening run of this campaign.
That's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. As Graz having a little look at Vischer. Oh, those hards not working. And Klinsmann's running to the back of him at Alta. And he's got around. The Haas has now chipped the front wing. That is the Haas of Jamie. He's lost his front wing as well. The virtual safety car has been called. What a chaotic start to this race. But it's great news if you're a Johnny Disco or Maxime B fan. Even better news if you're a Cody Lawrence fan.
I said action-packed, but I think what you have said in chaotic most definitely fits the bill. Dave Haas takes 5 seconds on the way into the pit lane.
I don't think I've ever seen so many drivers pit after a first lap.
It is extremely
like
stacked
that's just
up in
a
there.
testament to how tight.
Oh, there's a huge double stack coming out of the Aston Martins, and I do believe the Haas racers as well. You can see the entirety of the pit lane is in a state.
And it's not even a full safety car, so they're going to effectively almost be a pit stop behind. But the top 7 now in this all-running order just stayed out of trouble. And now they are in a fantastic position to just do the laps, put in the mileage, and just let the lap counter tick down further and further. And they'll just be cruising nice and easy. But for all those guys who got caught up as the VSC is now called in, they are still well and truly tied together. Guac having a couple of issues out of the Tamburello chicane down in the fight for the wooden spoon.
One thing to
but
note,
aside from that, looks pretty clean.
in all that commotion, Mick, there was only one driver, and I say there was about 13 racers that pit there. Dave in the Haas took 5 seconds for going, and he was the only racer to do so, and that's just unfortunate coming into this. However, it is early on. Keeps his nose clean. Should there be a safety car or anything like that, and he does need to pit again in any case, he will get rid of that 5 seconds. Klinsmann taking advantage of Guac as he has a little bit of a slip up coming out of Aqua Minerale, and then he gives Klinsmann a little bit of a love tap as a thank you, I suppose. I don't know what that was. A little bit too much speed into the chicane there.
We have a fight between the two bulls. Fisher, Meaty, the sister teams, going side by side into Tamburello. Oof. And around the outside goes the AlphaTauri and just clears the Red Bull. And that's the AlphaTauri of Vischer now up into 8th place. DRS has now been enabled. It was lap 3 and there was only a virtual safety car. But the front two, number 2 drivers, if you will, from the championship contenders fighting it out for the race win.
Yeah, I think it's quite funny to see Johnny and Maxim B running 1-2 right now, and then you, as unfortunate as it is, and Johnny does hello with a fastest lap as well, but it is kind of ironic to see Becky B and Rhapsody also 14-15. They're not too far off of one another. Rhapsody going to be pushing to catch up with Becky in any case.
Sales, first driver to get a time penalty for multiple warnings. Got that at the Alta chicane. And in his pursuit of a Haas and a Haas. That DRS distance, you're just going to see the potency of that straight line speed. Fast lap 16.8 for the Ferrari, easily into turn 1. Gabbyson decides to join him in the penalty club. The Ferrari moves up into 12.
Oh, we've got a problem. That is not good if you're a Red Bull fan. Is that going to be a safety car? The virtual has been deployed.
Yep, we were talking about it in the qualifying, Striff. The curves at the Tamburello chicane just really grueling if you hit them the wrong way, and there's absolutely no saving it if it wants to go into that right-hand side barrier.
Somewhat surprised we do not have ourselves a full safety car. However, it is only the 5th lap of contention. There's still plenty of time, knock wood, for opportunities.
It's really unfortunate to see the reserve of Meaty out of this one so early, especially after the amazing qualifying performance he was able to put in. Could have been a lot more. Hello, everybody in the chat. Phoenix, Faku, I'm saying that correctly. Hope you're all having a wonderful evening. As the duel between the number 2s is about to kick off.
Having a bit of fate, keeping things tight with Johnny. You wonder where his delta is.
Backing up now, DRS enabled, and he's really messed up that VSC restart. The timing not quite good enough.
That was very good for Johnny Disco.
DRS.
That was massive for Johnny Disco. Graz and Sidewinder. It is a Red Bull under threat from the Ferrari.
Once again, you're going to see how powerful the slipstream in DRS is. It's a no contest. You just have to pick a side and stick to it. Pick your lane. And Graz easily makes it past the Red Bull. But now he has to break that 1 second gap using those soft tires. Yellow flags at Aqua Minerale. That's Carmelesson. Losing it. Going over the sausage curbs as well. It's been a disappointing start for the Aston Martin, especially after how fruitful his campaign was just a couple of seasons ago.
Been trying to keep up with Jamie Lawrence right now. And we'll jump on to Phoenix Bomateo, who has himself an AlphaTauri in his sights. Currently locked onto P8 coming through Sector 2.
Well, Klinsmann is able to make the pass on the Haas into Tamburello chicane. Now through Piratella goes Bomateo. As well as Visha into Aqua Minerale. Just staying nice and close as the Aston Martin. Speaking of close,
fight.
it's Cody Lawrence, Sidewinder, going for the exchange. Cody now up into 5th place from last in just 6 and a bit laps.
Already taking advantage of every opportunity, keeping things very clean on that opening run, keeping himself out of the pit lane as Bomateo blows by Visha with the utilization of DRS.
Pretty simple move. Becky B as well making that a very similar move on Dave into turn 2 as well.
That gives
but unfortunately for us, Trev, the front few have seemed to have spread out a little bit.
Things really loosened up on the Simon Tower, I will say. Not too many fights occurring at the moment, but I will say Dave has put himself between Becky and Rhapsody.
I have a spin in Aqua Minerale. It's Visha around. He was pushing so hard to try and stay with the Aston Martin, but unfortunately, if you push a little bit too hard in that section, you are going to go around. And that's exactly what happened.
That was very tough luck for Visha. Jamie Lawrence and Klinsman with another exchange. Jamie back into 16th.
Yeah, those subs should still have a fair bit of life left in them. And I think Klinsman's just going to get him back with the DRS assistance as Visha goes around again, this time at Ravazza. Guak decides to join the 3-second time penalty club as well. It's Klinsman using that ERS just to make sure he makes it past. Easily goes. Oh, and Guak very late on the brakes, has to cut the corners to avoid running into the Haas. Spooks him and then makes the move. That's an interesting way to make an overtake, but fine by me. Just glad they can both live and tell the tale, because that could have been our first safety car of the race, Drift.
I think there's a few racers on this grid that really want to see one of those safety cars right now.
Rhapsody has been struggling right now. Could he possibly have bodywork damage from that first lap? Becky B has been pulling away from him, and Dave Haas has also gotten past him. So the championship leader right now not having the best race.
Dave being overtaken by Rhapsody here.
Fairly simple move. 2.4 seconds now between the two title contenders. Currently the closest gap on this grid is the fight for 16th. As Jamie really wants to get that place back after a very unorthodox overtake. Currently the only driver within DRS range. So we'll see what he's able to do.
A few more laps and we're going to start to see some pit stops coming out of these soft runners here. It's 9 laps now, soon to be 10 for the top 4.
You want to be pitting for those mediums fairly soon. It doesn't look like we'll be seeing a safety car anytime soon. So we'll just have to see how it plays out at the front of things. The undercut could be what Maxime needs to get back in that DRS range, mind you. So maybe that's something to consider on the Mercedes pit wall. Jamie struggling a little bit through Alta, but it doesn't really matter. Look at the speed of the Haas. That Ferrari power unit really working to the outside for the Tamburello chicane and has cleared the Alfa Romeo before the braking zone. And we saw how, I mean, I don't know if you saw it on stream, Striff, but I saw how far back the Haas was and was still able to make the pass.
As soon as that rear wing notch is open and you have the utilization of DRS, it is called the drag reduction system for a reason, and that is exactly what allows Jamie, and well, could very well potentially allow Guac pass one another with extreme speeds down long straights, of course. And if you were with us last week in Melbourne, around Australia, we saw a few DRS zones there.
Yeah, whopping 3. To be exact. Here, only the single one, but the single one might be the only one that they need. As Dago in the other Alfa Romeo, also on the hunt.
Ooh.
But runs a little bit wide at the exit of the Tamburello chicane and picks himself up a 3-second time penalty.
Jamie Lawrence looking for Klinsmann right now. He's got Guac on the rear. Does Jamie go for it? We have the rear view. Jamie round the outside. Klinsmann's defending. Jamie pushes through, opens the door. Guac fronts to rears on the McLaren, looking for a door. There's nothing there just yet. Klinsmann's going to hold on to 16th position. My, oh my, that was some action to see.
Yeah, very smart from the Alfa Romeo not to make a dive into the Villeneuve chicane. That is always going to end in disaster as you enter it at such a high speed. We have the first of the pitters at the front, Gabox, into the pit lane, follows Fresh Mediums, and he's going to emerge in a very comfortable 7th place. Oh, and Jamie's gone around at Aqua Minerale, doing a nice little donut. Carmelesson just going to breeze on by.
There you go. On a charge, the Alfa Romeo hunting down Phoenix Bomateo for 8th position. Going to push himself to the inside, off the left-hand side, into the grass. He'll come through ahead of the Aston Martin into 8th position. Cody Lawrence, meanwhile, is in 4th position on the medium compound tires, hunting down Graz, who is in a podium position provisionally. Graz 10.2 off of Johnny Disco and Maxim B, who are within 1.5.
Well, exchanging positions with Klinsmann for 15th as well while that was going on. Johnny Disco is actually going to go into the pits first. So of our 2 leaders fighting out for victory here in Imola, it's the Williams into the pit lane first. He's going to have quite a bit of clear air. So Maxime really needs to use everything that he has left in those softs if he wants to have any hope of securing this race victory here tonight.
Gavin Zim on the way in for the McLaren squad, and Sales, who is also on some worn softs here. He was among the drivers on softs that hit in the VSC at the opening lap of the race. He will be able to stay out for another couple of laps.
Meanwhile, Dago, Gabox, both closing in on Bo Mateo. It could be 3 wide in the Tamburello. It is 3 wide in the Tamburello. A massive dive from Dago. He pulls the car up and he gets the double move done. Holy smokes.
Still 2 wide right now. Gabox, Phoenix. Oh, Phoenix gets himself through into 7th. He wants to go and hunt down Dago now, and Gabox G is going to defend as Sales will catch up to this field.
Gabox losing out. Vischer retiring from the session, and he's crashed into the pit wall, it looks like, and that's a safety car, just as Maxime B has entered the pit lane.
That is a very interesting situation to find oneself in. Maxime B, Cody Lawrence into the pit lane. Vischer crashing into the pit wall on, was it entry? I imagine it was entry.
Have a look with Johnny. Those cars just despawned. But
I can't say I'm unfamiliar.
This is going to mean that Maxime B is an effective leader of this race. Sidewinder has stayed out. Interesting. Cody has put on the softs, and he's going to emerge in 4th. Now softs, that's a long way to go on those soft compound tires.
Well, in his position, he does not have a lot of options. He
No.
he if you started this race on the mediums, I think Sidewinder has made a good call here. I actually do, because if there should be another safety car, and you already know what I'm going to say at this point, is that safety cars happen to, give you potentially more safety cars. He is in a good position, but it's a very interesting situation. He has to gamble, because otherwise you're in a very tough position. Cody Lawrence, you saw him go from the mediums to the softs. What's he gonna do? Go on hards? He's gonna lose all the track position because the hards aren't gonna be nearly as quick as the mediums.
I think it's basically a coin flip between. I think both are viable options. But I don't think there was any reason for Cody not to pit, just because of the gap that he had behind him. And he knew that everyone else was going to come into the pits as well. And everyone else who started on the mediums got caught up in that kerfuffle at turn 1 or turn 2 on the opening lap. So they've already swapped tire compounds once. They can just go to a set of mediums and then another second set of mediums and then be on their way. This does bring basically all those drivers who got caught up in that dreaded lap 1 incident right back up to the rest of the queue. Might be out of position slightly, but at least they are there. We have a Mercedes and Williams, net 1-2. And we have a Williams and Mercedes, net 10-11.
Massive position changes all over this grid.
So what does this mean for the restart? Sidewinder is going to be pretty slow on those old mediums. Those medium tires still have a little bit of life left in them, but compared to fresh ones, it's no contest. And Cody on fresh softs, he's going to be rapid on this restart and might be able to get that track position. And knowing how nice he is on his tire compound, it wouldn't surprise me that he goes the rest of the race on those softs. He certainly has the skill set and the tools to do so. And safety car laps are just going to help the Alpine. Jamie, you should be driving your car, mate. Get out of the chat. Because we want to get this race back underway, mate.
Get in your car. One more lap to go around here. Everybody going to be itching to go.
This is the $1 million question, Striff. Who is in the best position to take one of this race right now? Folks in the chat, feel free to answer this as well. Is it Maxime? Is it Cody? Yeah, what does Jamie think?
Jamie, I think Jamie will win this race as soon as he gets back in the car.
Exactly. He's just been... No, it's a handicap, right? He's just too quick in that horse. Just wants to give all the other drivers a chance before he goes on a winning spree of 6 in a row.
Well, we've already seen that this grid is extremely tight throughout the qualifying. We're bunched back up behind the safety car. You've asked me, who do I see potentially winning this race? Becky B. I see Becky
in
B.
11th.
I see Becky B coming through here. Maybe Graz. I don't know. I think something is going to happen here.
You would say Graz.
Well,
I mean, no surprise there. Graz has been very impressive.
coming
But
on in.
yeah, the questions will be answered in just a few moments' time because it could be absolutely amazing or catastrophic for all of these drivers going into the Tamburello chicane yet again with all 20 cars basically in the same spot. You saw how that ended last time, Striff. Let's hope they can all keep the repair bills to a minimum this time.
Here we go. Sidewinder now, 3 out of the final turn. Taking a look at that telemetry. He is away. He is pushing that overtake. He is gone. Cody Lawrence with a good launch. Looking at Johnny Disco, and we have an issue for the Alfa Romeo of Dago. Johnny Disco under threat. Here goes Cody Lawrence. Oh, he lets Johnny Disco. Well, not necessarily lets Johnny Disco. Johnny gets earlier on the break. Right now, Cody still with him on the softs. Right behind him, Gabizim and Graz exchange.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on the back of things as well. We have Guac going side by side with Victor Diaz into the Villeneuve chicane for 13th. Victor gets all out of shape trying to leave some room. Now he's under threat from Klinsman, who's trying to go around the outside of Tosa. And they're still going to have a drag race going up the hill. Carmelestin isn't too far behind them either, side by side for the two. Going into Piratella. The Alpine holds off for now, but this is allowed. Carmelestin is too wide into Aqua Minerale. This could get dicey. The Aston Martin pulls out as Cody now up into podium places. Becky B. Graz going for a fight, and there goes Graz around. Becky B onto the off-road. And this is going to give his championship rival Rhapsody a look going into Rabatza.
A very hectic safety car restart here. Becky B and Rhapsody fighting. Sidewinder is going to be under threat from Maxim B now. Cody Lawrence not too
just
far.
Maxim B. It's Cody as well. Cody looking up the inside into Tamburello earlier on the brakes. Decides to just slot in behind, get the better run, use the grip of the soft, switch back through the exit of Tamburello. We'll have the inside for Villeneuve, and I dare say that's going to be a done move for the Alpine. Just one car left for that P1 position, Striff.
Johnny Disco needs to move through Sidewinder quickly to stay with Cody Lawrence. He does not want to lose DRS once it comes online here at all. Becky B, he's going to have to move through Gabizim and as well Gabix G to catch back up with this train that he wants to catch with his teammate.
Yeah, but he can't just rest so easy because there's a very fast Brazilian right behind him who also wants to just follow him through. Gap now 1.3 between Sidewinder and Cody Lawrence. Those mediums have nothing left to give as we have now crossed the halfway mark in this race, just a couple of laps ago. And Johnny has to make this move, and he has to make this move now. As Cody with the slipstream and ERS, side by side with Maxime B going into Tamburello. The Alpine now into P1 from last on this grid. On lap 19, Cody leads the Italian Grand Prix.
Becky B gets Gabizim. Rhapsody trying to really close in on the McLaren as well. Sales is there. Phoenix Momenteo is there. The entirety of that train that has stuck with them from the safety car restart is still intact as now Guac and Victor Diaz exchange. Moving through to Rhapsody.
Guac still staying well and truly on the back of that Alpine. I mean, hards versus softs at this stage. The softs should be giving him so much more grip, but it doesn't quite look like it is. Perhaps some bodywork damage on that Alfa Romeo. Who knows at this stage? Oh, Cody seemed to have an issue. Maxime B's gotten past.
Not sure what happened there.
Perhaps a little bit of a slide. Those softs can get quite warm. And he was pushing insanely hard. Oh, Cody's game crashed. Oh. Oh, okay.
Gabix G pushing Sidewinder now. Sidewinder 19 on lap 20 now. For these mediums, they are his starting tire.
Both Becky B and Rhapsody were able to get past Gabizim as well. Becky trying to pull that gap, 7.5 tenths between the two championship contenders at the moment, as their teammates scrap it out for the win. Just damage limitation for both of these guys at the moment, Striff.
Cody Lawrence back on the hunt, as it were, considering he lost that lead of the race. The good exit here, pushing Maxim B through on the inside as we come into the chicane, and he gets the move done for the lead once again of this race. Meanwhile, Sales and Gabizim.
Yeah, at Alta as well. The Ferrari now back up to 8th, recovering from that slip and slide that he had a couple of laps ago. Meanwhile, as all the commotion was happening at the front, Johnny Disco has now gotten into DRS range of Maxime B once more. And Maxime struggling to stay with the Alpine. Sidewinder finally goes into the pit lane, releases Becky and Rhapsody as they charge down to try and get back on their podium places, if at all possible.
There goes Carmelesson ahead of Klinsman.
Oh, massive fight for 7th at the moment, Striff. Massive fight for 7th, Gabizim. Losing it at Tamburello. Really struggling through Villeneuve. And Haas goes up the inside of Tosa. A little bit of a bang between the two cars. But it is the Haas now through Bo Matteo on the attack. Through into Piratella. Now into Aquaminerale. Just holding nice and we're just holding stations at the moment, Striff, but it's getting really intense between those four for 7th place.
Sales with the penalty, 6 seconds right now. We've got a yellow flag coming up.
It's Jamie at Aquaminerale once more. Looks like.
Cody Lawrence, 16.845 now, fastest run of the race. Guac picks up 3. Mateo pushing Sales now. Here. There goes Phoenix into 7th position ahead of the Ferrari.
There goes the Haas as well.
On the outside.
Easily does it. The Ferrari loses 2 places in 1 straight. Just keeping one eye at the front of things. Cody has broken DRS just from Maxime B. So Johnny will have an opportunity to close right back up to his competitor. Dago staying nice and close in the battle for 12th or 11th place. Another quartet, Striff.
Yeah, there is some great little groups unfolding and some battles here.
Oh, Johnny runs wide at Ravazza. 3 seconds for the Williams.
That's tough.
And he has lost DRS as well.
Galaxy under
Becky
threat.
B now. Yep, here we go. Outside of Tamburello, Becky's able to get through. Rhapsody is not. So if Becky has any pace left in that car, now's the time to use it. So I dare say that Johnny won't make it super difficult for his teammate, especially with that 3-second time penalty.
Jamie Lawrence with a retirement into the pit lane, I do believe.
Yep. Not into the pit wall this time. Gabizim, Sales, Exchange out of Piratella. Now into Aquaminerale. The Ferrari just drops back just a little bit, but those 2 quartets seem to have merged. It's a one big cluster for the lower points paying position, Striff.
Yeah, it's really starting to become a much larger group here.
Octet? I don't know if that's a word. What do you call when there's eight people there?
I am not in the even attempt. Rhapsody looking at Gabex G. He needs to get this move done. He does not have any battery at his disposal.
Oh, Dago towing on the grass. Picks up 3 seconds to try and go on the inside for Tamburello, but he's made the move. But oh my goodness!
That is a huge crash. Goodness.
Karma is now out of the race.
Wow!
Oh my goodness! Dago recovering. Oh, Dago had to correct because with the grass on the tires, the car just snapped.
I am blown away we don't see a safety car for this.
How was that not at least a virtual strip? Wow, that was such a violent crash. But nothing.
Wow. That was tough. That's tough.
That's tough to watch. You just knew it was happening. Like, the moment that Dago decided to go on the grass to pass the Aston Martin, you knew it was over. So Carmelesson becomes the 4th retirement. Dave into the pit lane. As Becky B is now closing in on his teammate. But crucially, Rhapsody has not been able to pass Gabox G yet. Lap 25 of 32. There are still a couple of duels going on. There's a group for the final podium place at the moment, Striff.
Gabox G, really a thorn in Rhapsody's side right now.
Yeah, like when you're fighting for a title, and especially with how close it is predicted to be between those two, you just want to be next to your rival in this sense, not have any other cars interfere where at all possible. But in this train, it's near and impossible to overtake, especially since all of the drivers basically have no battery left.
Becky looking at his teammate here, Johnny, gives him the slot, threw up on the inside now. Gabox G tight to the rear of Johnny, looking for a way by Johnny Disco, dropping the anchor right now, really trying to position that car so that Gabox G has limited options and risky options.
He's going to try and just stay with his teammate, let Becky pull him along, and just make sure that Rhapsody stays at bay.
And if I'm Rhapsody, this is where things really fire up in my Mercedes. You push and you get that AlphaTauri. Because at the end of the day, you're looking at that Williams in 4th position. You're looking at Johnny Disco. He has a 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, so you've already got that place.
Every point matters.
Got that 5th place, yeah. Every point is going to matter at the end of things. And especially in the constructors fight with Maxime B putting in a solid showing thus far. It's a little bit further down the grid. Strip, we have a duel going on for 13th place at the moment. Haas in his Haas on fresh softs.
Hold the phone, looking for a trigger pull here, coming out of the Mercedes, up the inside, back through on the outside. Gabox G looking to hold. My, oh my, was that ever daring, coming out of Rhapsody, the Brazilian racer now, looking back through on the inside. Gabox G positioning that car in a very serious defensive position. And Rhapsody right now, he's running out of options. And look at the time extending from 5th to 4th. It is nearly 2 seconds here, Mick.
Rhapsody, he needed to get that move done into Tamburello. But what an amazing defensive drive from Gabox under so much pressure. Was able to keep the car facing the right way. And is still feeling that pressure.
Bit of a snap coming out of Aqua Minerale. We come through now into the chicane, and Rhapsody not able to get himself a line through on the AlphaTauri. It's all about exits right now.
Yeah, I mean, without the DRS for the AlphaTauri, it's going to be a pretty simple move into Tamburello this time around, but the damage is done. The damage is done, Striff. 2.2 seconds between himself and the two Williams cars. That's an impossible gap to close, especially since you know that those two will be working together. But can Maxime B help out his teammate in the dying stages? Specky has closed within 1 second of Maxime. It's not over yet. The duel between the two constructors rages on once more.
Where's the cliff for Cody Lawrence's tires here?
He's hit it. He's hit it, surely. I don't know. I'm actually frankly surprised that he's even keeping pace and still pulling away from Maxim being at this stage of the race. Those tires.
Oh, Becky B's done what we don't want to see. And
no.
That is exactly what everybody can find themselves doing if you lose concentration just for a moment. Becky B threw out of Aqua Minerale with the 180.
Now going to come under pressure from Gabbyism as well into Alta. Side by side between the two drivers here. They're just losing time. Gabbyism just going to slot in behind, wait for the DRS assistance. Becky B says, nah, you can go ahead. I want that DRS into turn 1.
That was very unfortunate for Becky.
Yeah, we're going to blame Neon in the chat for jinxing that. But Becky just trying to recover. 7th place is probably the best he can hope for at this stage. He's almost lost it again out of Tamburello. Meanwhile, a little bit further behind them, there's a fight for the final points position on the road. Klinsmann does have that 3 seconds. But hards versus mediums at this stage. But I think it's safe to say that Cody does have this one in the bag. He's still pulling a gap from Maxime, even on those dead soft tires.
You mentioned it earlier. He does have quite the ability to nurse his tires, and so we're seeing him with a consistent pace right now here on lap 29. One thing I do want to just bring up, normally throughout our races we'll have post-race interviews, but due to the restart and the lobby, I've actually been extended past time for when this race is over for this evening, so unfortunately we will not have post-race interviews, but looking forward to trying to get those going again very shortly.
I mean, I'm sure it's going to be all the same. It's going to be a very familiar 3 drivers on the podium at this stage. Rhapsody, though, struggling a little bit. Johnny might actually be able to pull this 3-second gap. He doesn't have a lot of time to do so, but it's 2.3 at the moment with 2.5 laps to go. It's doable. If Johnny's able to put together some qualifying runs, maybe extend the track a couple of times, use the 2 warnings he has to spare.
No, he just about cost himself what I would call a penalty, considering he exceeded quite a bit, but we'll have to see.
Rhapsody is closing though. And Gabox, unfortunately, unable to stay with Rhapsody because Johnny needs Rhapsody to fight with Gabox if he wants to have a shot at holding onto this podium place.
When you think about
the only saving grace for Williams at the moment.
Mercedes is leading this constructors battle, and given how they're looking right now, they are going to continue to do so.
Extend the gap at the top. Sales 3-second time penalty down in 15th. So we're on the penultimate lap on this in this race, and Maxime has only just started to close that gap to Cody.
Cody Lawrence starting this race in 20th position. He started it on the medium tire.
I mean, to take those soft 16 laps and at such consistent speed is really impressive. But it looks like things might actually just finish as they are now. However, Gabox slightly closer than he was last time on Rhapsody. Rhapsody doesn't have a lot of ERS in his arsenal either. These two still are fighting for position. 6/10, 7/10. It's not unheard of if Gabox just uses absolutely everything with that DRS assistance. He might actually be able to make the move on Rhapsody. But he's not using that ERS this time around. But he's still closing quite quickly.
Oh!
He's going to go for it. Oh, he has a look. If he used that ERS strip, he might have actually been able to make the move.
Well, he needs to take very special care through these next few turns. If he can make up any time at all, it'll be critical if Rhapsody makes a mistake. But that might have been it right there. That might have been the last
He's
move.
off again.
No.
On the last lap. Out of Tamburello, he's lost the position to Gabizon, which will get back on the penalties. But with grass on his tires, Graz might put the Williams under threat. This has been a horrible last 5 laps for Becky B.
He won't be wanting to race Imola for a little bit.
Oh, but Bo Mateo might be able to help him. He's around at Aqua Minerale on this final lap. Gabizon making his way past, just narrowly avoiding the Aston Martin. Becky B makes it through as well, as does Graz. And there goes Bo Mateo once more on the really hot rears. He's going to drop out of the points after that mistake. Very unfortunate, but it is Cody Lawrence who wins the race here in Imola. Maxime B, Rhapsody make it a Mercedes 2-3 on the podium. Johnny Disco will have to settle for 4th, as Gabox G 5th, Gabizon 6th, but it will be 7th for the McLaren as Becky B picks up 6th after what was a very disappointing outing for our reigning champion. But Cody keeps up his 100% win record, Striff, to basically no one's surprise.
Solid record to keep alive, and a great drive from him. 20th to 1st. Safety car, of course, here in Imola this evening, in a variety of interesting situations and scenarios, to say the least. But I will say, a good race. I enjoyed it, and I think, and I hope everybody else did as well. As that is it. Guac was the final car to come in. Let's take a look at the classification here in a few moments. And then it will be good evening and good night before next week we bring ourselves to the United States of America for the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Texas? Something like that? I don't know. I'm a Canadian. Give me a break. There it is. The Alpine on top. Cody Lawrence, Mick. 20th to 1st. Huge stint on the soft compound.
I mean, that's just... I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it, but... He's stolen 25 points again from these drivers, just like he did in Bahrain.
Yes,
but,
if you're unfamiliar, we have the Pirates, or the Reserves, if you will. They're somewhat of a potential Joker card deck from Monkey Wrench into Equation, or your championship.
Well, anyways, it has been great watching all the races at Imola. Next week, it's a home race for a lot of these drivers. It is the Circuit of the Americas for the United States Grand Prix. And that one is shaping up to be a pretty spicy affair as well, Striff.
Absolutely, and we have seen some fantastic races through the MRL's history at COTA, whether it be in the endurance or otherwise. And well, with that, hope you all have a fantastic evening, because next week we will be bringing you 5 more fantastic races here in the MRL. Of course, ciao for now, and we'll have to see you in the next one for the outro.